Well, I'll try.
You're live.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange with the A-Team. Yes, the A-Team. And hello, Will Vogel. He's part of the A-Team, but he's in the chat room. So my name is Scott Morganroth, Motor City Madmouth. Confidential follows us immediately after the show. I have Smokin' Jeremy B. Welcome back, Smokin'.
Great to be here.
I would call Jacob Christer Smokin' with some of the ideas he comes up with. Pundit, but back anyway.
I don't appreciate it.
Oh, no, and by the way, take that as a compliment. Okay.
No, I knew that exactly. It's like my main thing. I said to Will tonight. We're there to always think. We're there to always have some ideas. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're not playing meatheads.
Are you trying to promote STP? Slow down, think, proceed. That's what this platform is.
Absolutely, and not STDs.
There you go. No, forget that STD business. All right, JB Ellis is back. Okay, and for our Wednesday broadcast, welcome back, the other JB.
What's going on?
A lot. Okay, and George Eichhorn.
Good evening, fellows. Good to be back on.
All right, well, we got a real loaded show, and I mean loaded. We'll get to as much as we can, although I'm confident with the crew we have, we'll be able to do it. Title of this show is actually going to be called Relocation, Droughts, and Unemployment. But before I get to that, I want to let everybody know the audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. Will Vogel knows how to do that real well. And please send the topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. You want to advertise, call or advertise and cost efficiently. Call me at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. And yes, here we go. Denzel Snipes, thanks for popping in. All right. As I said, the title says it all. Relocation, Droughts, and Unemployment. And we're going to start with the dysfunctional Arizona Coyotes. But for how long? Okay. The Coyotes arena plan in Tempe rejected by the voters. The future in the Valley of the Sun is cloudy. So I guess the main thing here, although I will point out they are playing in the mullettarena, okay, for another year until they figure out where they're going to go. So here's a question, and I'm going to go right around rapid fire throughout the night, all right? Where are they going to go, Jeremy? I'll give you some choices. You got Houston, Atlanta, Quebec City, Kansas City, and bear in mind in Houston, tilmanfertitta actually controls facilities, so they'd be a tenant, and other names that are being bandied around are Milwaukee and Anchorage, and good luck, Gary Bettman, trying to solve this riddle.
I think it's Houston.
Do ya?
They have the population, they have the growth, they have the fiscal dynamics to cover it. I think that one makes more sense than the rest of them.
Okay. Jacob?
I'm not sure what it will be, but it can't be Atlanta. We've seen it twice. Atlanta Flames, Atlanta Thrashers. It does. This is the thing about the reason Atlanta does not work is because if you're not good, and we're saying this with the Braves. Braves are wonderful right now, so people don't get. I mean, because people don't run right now because the team's really good. But watch the Falcons; they're gone in the second and 2.5 quarters. They're out of the game, and everybody's right back in the streets and they're drinking or whatever. They do that in Atlanta every single. They do it for the Hawks. They do it for the Braves when they're horrible. And guess what? If the team's not good, it's not there. So it's not Atlanta. To me, it needs to be Quebec City. It's Quebec. Hockey to me is going to be Canada, and it is the original 6. And I think we have overstepped our bounds doing Dallas, doing Arizona with all these. I think we've overstepped our bounds with these. There are hockey fans that are rabid, and there are some things where you don't need to totally spread it completely around. Hockey's one of those.
Okay, well, you mentioned Will Vogan. He thinks they should go to Quebec City, bring back the Nordiques. I know that's talked about.
Like Colisée, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what though? I'm gonna disagree with you. I don't think that Quebec gets a team. I don't think that Bettman wants another team in Canada when there's other viable U.S. options out there. great idea. Well, don't hold your breath. Denzel Snipes. We'll go to his, but turn it over to George. I guess he's out of Houston, so that makes a lot of sense market wise. But the question is, do they want to be a tenant determined? I'm trying to look at this guy's name here, Tilmanfertitta. It's not like
Fertitta,
Joe Smith.
yeah.
All right, all right, George. You and I have been around this drill so many times. Where are the Coyotes going?
Well, the Kansas City Scouts, our former Red Wing great Sid Abel was managing that team. The Houston Aeros, Gordie Howe, Mark Howe, and Marty Howe, and Colleen Howe down in Houston. No way, Quebec. I'm sorry, Jacob. I agree with Scott. Bettman is not going to put another Canadian team in there if he can help it. I would say it's between Kansas City and Houston right now. I would think, though, that Houston has the edge. I think the population-wise, I know that, there have been some South teams that have struggled, such as Atlanta. But for the most part, they've drawn very, very well in Tampa and Florida, the Panthers, and, the Dallas Stars. It took them a while, but they draw very well. And even in Arizona, I mean, if they had a good facility and a good building, I'm sure they would draw well down there. So I'll vote, Scott, for Houston.
All right, JB, did I ask you this one or not?
No, but whatever happened to the Hartford Whalers? I mean, we could go there and bring back those great jerseys. That'll never happen. But maybe Houston or Charlotte would be good spots. Oklahoma City may be another spot. Get a natural rivalry with Dallas. At Kansas City, you can't go wrong with KC. So I mean, there's a lot of good options for relocation.
KC versus St. Louis.
My honest answer would be Quebec, but it's not going to Canada, unfortunately. So that leaves the U.S. options. And Hartford would be my number one U.S. choice, but it ain't going there. So, the real options were the other ones that I mentioned.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going Kansas City all the way. They got a ready-made arena, and we'll go back to the Scouts. That arena's been ready for a long time. They host a Big 12 basketball tournament all the time. There's no reason why Kansas City won't do well. I think there's some of the best fans in the country. They're passionate. They do deserve another chance. A far-fetched one that I actually read was, I would love to see it, but it would never happen, with the Anchorage, Alaska. I mean, think about it.
That
Anchorage,
would be fun.
Alaska.
You know what? That would be fun.
Yeah.
You got Anchorage, you got Seattle doing well, and you got Vancouver, and then you got all those teams in California. I would love to see a team in Anchorage. I guarantee you won't.
So. That would be fun.
Yeah, well, come on. This is a fun show here.
Let's go in Honolulu then, too.
Well, don't hold your breath. Okay. One thing you worry about in Honolulu is the ice will get melted, but not over in Anchorage, Alaska. And I've been to Anchorage. It's a great city, too. So, I don't know. I'm giving a little bit of love to Anchorage. And, of course, Candy Ebling would love Milwaukee, and I think Milwaukee would be a good choice because they would rival Chicago, but I don't think it's likely. And I know they talked about Salt Lake City. Vivint Arena holds up to 14,000 fans for hockey. I don't think the capacity gets it done. So there you have it. I'm going Kansas City, and the rest of the guys, you want to hear this? We'll find out in a year or two which one of us are right. Go ahead, Jeremy.
In Anchorage, Alaska, where they would have to worry about the ice melting is in the summer, because that actually gets upwards of 100 degrees in July during that 30 days of day.
Yeah, but I never remembered a hockey team playing into July, so I'm not going to worry about it. The only thing I'd worry about in Alaska, believe it or not, and I've been there before, is the 22 hours of daylight where your body is really out of whack. Then you're in a different stratosphere. So, all right, one more topic with the NHL, and yes, Will Vogel. Okay, I have to. Man, this kid's on top of his research. What the hell's the matter? But yeah, well, I'll answer that. Nothing. Okay. So, but let's go ahead to the chat room. And George, you're going to start reading this kid's chat, because at this particular point, he is fast, and I don't talk faster than he writes, whether or not. So, well, you know what? He talks about Canada having a drought for 30 years. So let's talk about this. The NHL, the last time these teams won a cup, we're going to start with the Final Four first, okay? Carolina's been 2006. Dallas, 1999. Florida Panthers, never. Vegas Golden Knights, never. The last time a Canadian team won was in 1993 when the Montreal Canadiens pulled the trick. Okay, and then you have Edmonton in 1990, Calgary Flames, 1989, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh, my goodness, that's a tough one. 1967. Compound that with the fact that Ottawa, Vancouver, and Winnipeg have never won a cup. And yes, as we mentioned, it's been 30 years since Canada's won a Stanley Cup. That's loaded, Jeremy. Where are you going with it?
Wow.
I figured that.
Right. Quebec, Canada hasn't won a Stanley Cup in 30 years. You want to disappoint them more. I love it. But anyways, yeah, I'm kind of dumbfounded at some of the teams that haven't been there in forever. But that just goes to show you a lot of those teams was back when there was no salary cap and people could just load their teams with a bunch of talent. You remember how talented the hockey world was back then? It's talented now, but it's spread out.
Okay. All right, Jacob.
It feels like it doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? It's like we've all known the cold weather states, but then you've got Dallas and Vegas, Carolina and Florida. And it's like that doesn't feel right to say that. But think of it this way. Look how far the Seattle Kraken made it. Look how far Vegas made the first year. The year one. We used to think about you have to be, the expansion of all sports, you get all the crap and you have to build your way up. It's not that way anymore. Different world, different time. It's also in the NHL. And part of the reason I was saying about Quebec is because maybe it's just my own little thing. I have old school way, but it doesn't feel right to say these 4 teams. But I have to wonder, after the end of this playoffs, how well will the NHL be doing? Because I always have felt like the Torontos, Chicagos, Montreals, I really feel like it is at it. Just like I was talking about the NBA last week, when Chicago, New York, and Detroit, all of them are at its best. I think the NHL's at its best when you get the original 6, maybe a St. Louis that's been around 50 some odd years. All of those are doing really well. I'm going to be interested in finding out after this Stanley Cup is over how the NHL is going to be doing overall money-wise. Is it really that changed and people are for it? Or are we going to start struggling with ratings and everything? I think they don't know who these people are.
Well, here, let me point out before I go to JB, Atlanta lost 2 NHL teams. Yeah, they did. I don't think they're going to get a third one either. St. Louis lost 2 NFL teams. You know what? Here, Dens, here's my thinking, okay? The first one, to me, I think that was their fault because they had opportunities to keep the Cardinals, and the St. Louis Rams ended up moving simply because Kroenke wanted to take it back to – they wanted to go out there and take it back to L.A., so that's where I stand on those. All right, go ahead, JB.
Listen, this is a South Florida Tribune show, the Sports Exchange. The Florida Panthers are the Eastern Conference Finals. What could be better for this show? Now, are we excited that the Panthers are there? Of course. We're on the South Florida Tribune.
Right.
It'd be crazy to think any other way.
Right.
Who cares about the other teams in the NHL? The Panthers are there. Let's keep going. Let's take care of Carolina. Let's get to the Cup, and let's see what happens.
Look at that. I like that. That's really good. You know what I'm going to also say? They got in with the number 8 seed, and they've been on house money, and Paul Maurice was a veteran coach who replaced Andrew Brunette. How did that work out? Okay, you didn't win another President's Cup trophy. What's the compromise? What's the
consolation?
Consolation. Thank you. Well, let's just go out there and knock off the number 1 seed instead. So, all right, George, good one, JB.
Well, the thing that's more disgusting than anything is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Since 1967, give me a break. You cannot tell me that the Toronto Maple Leafs and that organization did not have the resources like the Detroit Red Wings and owners Mike Ilitch to literally buy all those all-star players and form those great teams in Detroit. There's no way, other than the fact that, okay, there might have been a tax differential for some of these guys that didn't want to play in Toronto because of Canada's tax. But that is the most embarrassing thing in sports right now, that the Maple Leafs have been waiting since 1967 with the most loyal fans, a beautiful new arena, such tradition, and they take a crap in there, you-know-what. And that is just horrible for the Maple Leafs and for hockey, too, because like you said, they are an original 6 team. But the Montreal's another one. I mean, they waited since 93, but at least that's a lot more recent than 1967. So all that being said, I'm pulling for Florida, too. Go Panthers.
But, George, you heard that the Toronto's thinking about changing their name.
No.
the Toronto fake beliefs.
That was good.
Oh, that's a good one.
Well, you know what? Just because you said that, JB, you get to read Will Vogel's comment. I like this one. Go ahead, JB, read it.
Florida's on a roll. Panther, NHL, Heat, NBA, NCAA Men's, FAU, and Miami. Tampa Bay Rays, MLB.
Sums it up right there. I don't have to say a whole lot, but yeah, no, I give the Panthers credit. They're resilient. They're a number 8 team, and now they're in a place nobody thought they would be. We'll see how it all plays out. But when you look at the story of the Vegas Golden Knights, have only been in the league just a few years, and they made the Stanley Cup final in their first year. That's just remarkable. They had for the Montreal Canadiens. Well, you know what? It just goes to show you that the team that's won the most titles, okay, and I had some harsh words for their fans many, many years ago that if you Google my name, you'll find out what they are. But they were the beneficiary of fewer teams because they haven't been relevant for 30 years. So I don't have to make this stuff up. They haven't won since 1993. So all this, just shows you the talent's watered down. They can't get anybody there. No Guy Lafleur's, Yvonne Cornwallis, Ken Drydens are walking through that door. And I'll tell you, the Canadians were unbelievable back then. But 30 years with the most storied franchise in the league, it just goes to show you, I think, like Will said, that maybe Edmonton has a shot at some point. But right now, well, you could bring that up a year from now. All right.
56 years for the other one.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, right. Good point. All right. And I'll leave it at that. We're going to switch sports mode to round ball. Franchises to never reach the NBA Finals. Whoa, what a theme we've got tonight. Nevers, droughts, unemployment. Oh, we're getting the unemployment part in a moment. The Charlotte Hornets, Denver Nuggets, LA Clippers, Memphis Grizzlies, Minnesota Timberwolves, New Orleans Pelicans. Well, it looks like the Nuggets have a shot to go ahead and eliminate themselves from the list. I'll go around the horn again. Okay, Jeremy, let's talk about the teams to never reach the NBA Finals. Which one's going to be next?
The Nuggets are about the only one that really have a shot right now.
Right.
Other than that, the rest of them are 2 to 3 pieces away, whether it's bench players or whether it's stars. Because it takes 2 or 3 stars, and it takes a really good bench for any team to make it anymore. And, Pelicans, they got stars. They don't have a bench.
Okay. All right, Jacob.
Well, the biggest thing with the Pelicans is the fact that they had themselves what they thought was their savior, and the guy, and he's 270 pounds of bubble wrap. And the biggest issue with him is the fact, when you can't have him, they didn't build anything. They had him, and I don't know if they expected to build around him or have help, but they're terrible now. And yes, that is true. Wolves would be off the list. You're correct. Now, here's the thing about that. To me, watch Denver against LA right now. They have the team. They have the offense. They could easily take a game in LA and then finish it off at home. Easily. They've got it. They've got an offense to keep that up. You've got to remember the one thing about Golden State is they just weren't. They did not have the offense. They were 11-30 on the road, and so they just weren't going to do any of that kind of stuff on the road in the playoffs. This Denver team's got. See, the Golden State was very, very much inconsistent all year. Denver has not been. It just hasn't. And they can go on the road and take one, then finish off wherever it is, 4-1 or 4-2 on LA. They're tough, so I think they can get to the finals. Regardless of what anybody thinks about being at LA versus Boston, and the NBA might want that. But I don't know if LA's got enough as far as defense to stop Denver. That's a pretty powerful offense.
Okay. Well, you know what? We'll turn it over to JB.
Listen, it's Denver. Denver's making it this year. It's a loaded question. They have the guy who could have been MVP. He, was 1-1A. It really wasn't much difference. They're a really good team. They're going to end up making the finals. Now, if you ask who the next team is, that would have been a great question because I don't think any of them are making it anytime soon. I think Jeremy was right. That would have been a guess for anybody, but I think Denver's got it this year, no question.
Well, I'm glad you asked the next question and that you went out there and answered it. So thank you very much. I appreciate that type of contribution. Thank you, Mr. Ellis. All right. Okay, George.
Well, Denver obviously is in the picture, obviously big time right now, as you guys said, and they've been waiting a long time. I mean, they've had good teams over the years, but never, I don't think one as good as this team. Things are clicking for them right now. I know they've got, Shaq staring across the floor from them in this conference finals, but I still think that I think the Nuggets hopefully will break that jinx and make it into the final two, the championship series against the Boston Celtics.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you one thing. I worked with Brendan Malone when he was an assistant coach with the Detroit Pistons. I'm going to tell you, his son, Michael Malone, is doing a phenomenal job in Denver. So got to be pulling for Malone. And I don't know if I've ever told you this story. And if I haven't, I'll say it again. And if I have, well, you can hear it again, okay? Once upon a time, I was covering a Pistons in a Cleveland game out in Cleveland in the Richfield Coliseum. So I'm staying at the Pistons Hotel at the time. And, Brendan Malone and Brendan Sir were going to go out to eat at a place called Whitey's out in Cleveland. And they asked for a ride at Game 1. And it was really neat. We go there. So I pull into the parking lot, and I targeted a parking spot right on the end. So Malone and Sir are looking at me like, you telegraphed this like you knew where you were going to go, right, in a parking lot. So I said, well, coach or coaches, here's the deal, okay? If I go in the corner spot, the one side won't get hit, and the other side, I'm not going to worry about it. At least 1 out of 2 is not bad. They both looked at me like that was pretty cool to learn that. And by the way, what did I do that night for dinner? I sat there and picked their brains about basketball. We were watching games over at Whitey's Bar and Grill out in Cleveland. So there you go. I'm rooting for Michael Malone no matter what. And we'll talk about the Boston Celtics a little bit shortly. So with that said, we move on to the next topic because now we're starting to get even more interesting. According to CBS Sports, did you know these coaches had the most wins over the last 3 seasons in the NBA? Montywilliams, Phoenix Suns, 160. Mike Budenholzer, 155. We know with Milwaukee. Doc Rivers, 154 with Philadelphia. And he lost 10 game 7s. All were fired after being eliminated from the 2023 playoffs. Job security, championships? I don't think so, not according to these guys. What do you think, Jeremy?
I don't have much to say about it. Not my cup of tea. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Don't worry about it. Okay. Jacob?
Monty Williams is one of my very favorite coaches of the league. And then of course, I'm going to give Budenholzer all the props in the world. He's got a ring. And he got a ring when everybody and their mom wanted him fired. So that takes a lot of gumption to do that. Now, the biggest thing about Doc Rivers, the biggest thing about Rivers is the fact that I don't want to call 1,000-win the coach stink. I don't want to call him crap. But for somebody who has 1,000 wins, he coaches so scared. And the one time he didn't coach scared, he was very, very aggressive in that playoffs when he won the ring. Something somewhere down the line happened, and he just got scared. And he just keeps coaching scared. And it didn't help he had James Harden on his team. But it's the fact remains that he's still every time he's up 3-1, 3-2, he just gets stiff. And he's trying not to lose, and then he loses every single time. So I think, do all 3 get jobs? Yes, absolutely. But I could see Doc Rivers getting an Orlando job or a Detroit or something. Some team that wants 50 wins and get back up there. He's not going to win a title, but so I can see them getting that. Budenholzer's going to go to a place looking closer to the ring, and Monty Williams will get his eventually. That's an amazing coach who just hasn't had the right timing yet, and then not the right players. And it's like you just hope, and I'll bring another Harden thing. You just hope he doesn't get Harden because he's already dealt with Paul.
Mm-hmm. JB?
Listen, it's part of the coaching business. You could be a great coach if you don't win it all, if that's what's expected of you. When the GM and the owners are pouring the money in, if they expect you to win it all and they're not happy with where you finish, that's part of your job, unfortunately, and you lose it. Is it fair? Yes, you know what you're getting into when you signed up. Doc Rivers, on the other hand, listen, he, to me, is not a good coach. The whole Ben Simmons situation from the beginning. He mishandled. I'm not saying Simmons is right, but he could have handled that so much better and, could have solved that whole situation before it happened. He's horrible in game sevens. He's horrible with a lead in the second and the finals. The guy is just not a winner. I don't really care. You could win as many games as you won in the regular season. Ask Yankee fans how making the playoffs. What does that make? What does that do for you? We won a World Series, or it's not worth it. We wasted our whole season.
Well, Doc Rivers coached the Yankees.
No, thank you. Yeah, we don't want him.
Well, he'd have a heart attack. That's all.
Don't they already have him in Aaron Boone?
Pretty much. Well, Doc may be a little bit better. But yeah,
in the regular season, maybe
it's part of the job. It's what you sign up for. If you're expected to win, then you don't win. Unfortunately, you lose your job. It doesn't matter how good of a coach you are. How many times did Billy Martin and Yogi Berra get fired when they coached great teams? It's just part of the territory.
Well, that's Steinbrenner by himself anyway. He was nuts.
Well, remember one thing, though. When Billy Martin got fired, he got rehired for more money by George Steinbrenner. And that was a nice show that they had out in the Yankee Stadium. And I talked to Billy once about he didn't care, whatever. He got a raise every time and always got his benefits. All right, George. We know the drill about Doc Rivers' Game 7s, including the fact that he lost one to the Detroit Pistons when he was a member of the Orlando Magic. I happened to be there for that. And I believe Rick Carlisle was a coach. Take it from there, George.
Yeah, Will Vogel made a nice comment. He says, I like Monty and Budenholzer, but Doc has struggled ever since Boston, in my opinion. I'm of the same persuasion. Thank you, Will, for bringing that point forward. And you were right, JB. I don't see the fact that Rivers is going to ever take a team to a title. I'm sorry. There's just something about him. Like you said, he's scared. There's something tentative about him. There's something that just is not clicking. Nice man, though. Good basketball mind. Of course. The interesting thing is the Pistons supposedly here in Detroit have gotten down to their 3 final candidates: the assistant in Milwaukee, the assistant in Oklahoma City, and the former UConn coach, who's the leading candidate. So now what do? They're flying all these guys out this week to Los Angeles to meet Tom Gores, the owner. And now you've got 3 premier coaches available. Right. So I don't know what the Detroit Pistons are going to do. I don't know if they're going to go ahead with one of the 3 that they supposedly are the finalists, or are they going to reopen it up? Very interesting situation in Detroit because of the fact that these 3 guys have now become available.
Go get Doc. Go get Doc.
All right. Well, you know what? I'll say this. Okay, of all these 3 coaches that I mentioned, Montywilliams will win the first championship ring of the 3. I think so easily. Okay. Absolutely. One more topic with the NBA, then we go to the sports town of the week. Want to make sure that JB and Jacob get over to Confidential in plenty of time. But this one, too, is like another doozy with the dismal dismissal, of Williams. Every NBA coach with the best record the last 6 seasons is no longer with the team. First of all, Mike D'Antonio was fired by the Rockets, best record in 2017-2018. Mike Budenholzer fired by the Bucks, best record 2018-19, 2019-20, 22-23. Quinn Snyder, by the way, recently hired by the Atlanta Hawks, was fired by the Jazz 2020, 2021 as a best record. And as I just mentioned, Monty Williams, fired by the Suns 2021, 2022, best record. And this is according to the Basketball Network. A couple coaches out there that are still available that I didn't mention. Dwayne Casey, I think he'd take a job if he had the right one, even though he's upstairs with the Pistons. And don't forget Nick Nurse, okay? He's still out there. I mean, I'm talking about some loaded championship names, okay, Jeremy? So while you're giving me the finger that you want to go, I was going to defer to you anyways. Go ahead. I'm sure you have more to say on this topic than the last one, right, my friend?
Yes. Also, isn't Frank Vogel still available?
Yeah, he is too.
Right. Yeah. So you're talking about there's about 4 of those that are defensive-minded coaches that have experience in playoff caliber. Then you have the assistants from 2 of those guys that are defensive-minded coaches. I'll be happy with any of those 6 coming to Detroit, which would be better than Dwayne Casey.
Okay. Well, yeah, you've shown that you really never cared for him in the first place, so he's out.
I haven't had to post that since that week.
Right.
Well, fired that weekend.
Well, the thing is, he was coming in with a lame duck year. You must get it over with. And you know what? He tanked for the 5th pick in the draft, by the way. Go figure. I don't want to depress Detroit fans, but they're not the sports sound of the week. We'll give them a break for this one. But they tanked for the 5th overall pick. Go figure. That's what I think of the NBA draft lottery. All right, Jacob.
Oh, I love Frank Vogel also. And it's like, and I've really been mad at the Lakers, and the fans and everything for scapegoating him. He couldn't help that ridiculous situation out in the first place. What'd you say?
It was that GM on the floor.
Exactly. And it's like, and the thing is, he's a great defensive mind, which there are some bad teams out there right now that could use him. He can bring 15, 20 game improvement immediately. I like Frank Vogel, and he needs to be out there. Montywilliams that goes without saying, but I'm not going to give him with the crappy teams. I'm going to think he's the final piece of one team somewhere. It could easily be Philly. Could easily, as long as one certain player is not going to be there. But it's like but I'm saying is it could easily be Philly. Get Embiid a real sidekick, and then you get that coach, and they can do it. And it's like, and I like Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse has a ring. Frank Vogel has a ring. These are going to be coaches that stick around over there. And then guess what? Sam Cassell's around. There's going to be someone that gives him a chance, and he's a great motivator.
Well, one guy I'd like to see get a job would be Mark Jackson. Is what I would. To me, it's a mystery why he's never gotten another job. And I want to mention something. I don't know if I brought it up earlier or not, but I did mention it on Pundit's Pundit. Okay, when you talk about the Memphis Grizzlies not winning a title, well, you know what? I don't think they're going to win another one for a while. I think jamorant should be suspended for an entire year. That's my opinion after what he did. I mentioned that Pundit's Pundit. I want to reiterate here. Okay, JB Ellis, go ahead.
Listen, I mean, all these guys are good coaches. It doesn't matter where they end up. It's a matter of the right fit, having the right guys in their system. That's why the GMs need to sit down and figure out who they have on their roster, what type of system they're going to fit in, because everybody runs a different system. So it's about looking at the coach and their style and getting the right guy for the right team. And if you just want a guy because you want a guy, then you may have to change up who you have or make moves to get the optimal team, or you may just, not play at the top level right away.
Okay. George?
Yeah, a lot of good guys available out there. I agree. There's a lot of openings, and there's a lot of great men out there that can coach this game. And, again, Detroit, it just did not work out for Dwayne Casey. I mean, he had a good team, a good thing going in Toronto, and couldn't complete it. But, I think that, if these guys want to teach some defense, I mean, all the more power. I mean, if I'm a head coach and I'm seeing what's going on in this league, I'm going to start teaching some defense better. And I think that the teams that can play defense, can play it effectively, are going to be the ones that are going to advance in the playoffs. And the Detroit was the furthest from that right now this season, especially with so many young players. But no, I agree. I mean, there's so many good guys out there. I'd take Nurse in a minute. And I don't know why Detroit's not looking at more veteran coaches right now. They're going for a more younger guy, at least the 3 interviews that were coming up with owner Gores this week.
Yeah, but you know what, George? They had the 3 finalists, but now the deck has been reshuffled a little bit. So I think if the Pistons were smart, they would go ahead and extend the search a little longer and invite those other guys in for an interview, make a decision, because I don't think they expected this many coaches to be fired. I really don't, especially let alone successful ones. That's the thing that to me really boggles my mind. And and you know what? I'm going to bring this comment up to the forefront with Will Vogel. I like it. I think Nick Nurse, a lot of coach a good Raptors team that beat the Warriors in the finals, and hope he gets to coach a good team. Well, we all do that. Well, he does. So I think he'll definitely be rehireable. I wouldn't be surprised to see him land with the Phoenix Suns. But you just never know. I mean, these are just unbelievably big openings with a lot of talent. But then when you look at the Phoenix Suns, are they going to be trading away? What are they talking about? Trading away Chris Paul and DeAndre Ayton, I think, is possibly going to be shopped. So we'll see. A lot of player movement. We still have free agency, the draft coming up. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. So, George, I think to your part, Okay, I think the Pistons search continues a little bit longer because of this. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm vehemently going to say, I think Mark Jackson deserves another shot. I really do. Why he hasn't coached another team, maybe there was some internal things going on with Golden State, but Mark Jackson needs to be hired ASAP. All right, final thing to get to tonight, Sports Sound of the Week. And yes, Celtics are at home facing the Miami Heat tonight, Game 1, Eastern Conference Finals. All right, we're going to rank the Boston area in terms of Sports Sound of the Week. Jeremy, go ahead. 10. Okay, why?
They got some of the greatest fans. They've got a lot of championships. I mean, granted, other than the Red Sox, who went like their 100 years between the championships. That being said, it's a great sports town. They've got all the sports there, and they've got good teams that tend to play at the top of their division every time they play.
Enough for me. Jacob?
Oh, it's a 15. I mean, you grow up with Bird in Boston. You go look at the Red Sox. I mean, how many times will they show Carlton Fisk in that home run in 75? How many times do you see that? I mean, that play. How many stadiums? I mean, you get the Patriots. You got in those years. Patriots used to fill the stadiums. Other than the 1 in 15 year, they filled those. You got to remember, they were also in the Super Bowl in '85. So they feel they are just. Here's the thing about Boston fans. They're construction workers and blue collar, and they got their Sundays ready. And there's no question in mind it's a 15.
Okay, well, we'll go back to Will Vogel, 10. He gives them a 10. Bruins, Celtics, Red Sox have a rich history. Patriots, too. Red Sox came down from 3-0 to win that pennant. So, and I don't think that Denzel wants to hear that from you, Will, but you figure it out on your own. That by itself warrants a 7 rating, LOL. All right, well, whatever. Okay. Some people don't like to be reminded. But all right, JB, where are you putting the Boston market?
Didn't we do Boston last week?
No.
Or what did we do last?
Toronto.
Okay, because I know it was a high score.
We did Toronto.
You know what? Very similar. They're going to get a 10. I mean, the Celtics, one of the most winning teams, the most winning team in basketball. Red Sox, who have great fans. As a Yankee fan, we love to hate them, but the Red Sox have great fans. The Patriots, the most winning team in football, and the Bruins, one of the original 6. They got, everything you could want in Boston. There's, a phenomenal city for sports.
George?
Oh, yeah, definitely a 10. I mean, you look back at the Red Sox over the years, Ted Williams, Carl Yastrzemski, Jim Lonborg, Johnny Pesky. I mean, all the great Red Sox players, and, of course, Tom Brady and the whole era with the Patriots. You got the Bruins and the Celtics with such great teams. They share an arena. Me and my late friend John Wendler, I'll never forget that trip we took to see the Red Sox and the Tigers play at Fenway Park. What an experience. For any of our listeners that have not gone to Fenway Park, you got to do that. It's just remarkable. And it's such a great place. They are diehard sports fans. Definitely a 10.
Yeah, I go 10. I haven't been to Fenway Park, bucket list item. I haven't been to New England to see a football game, although I've seen them on the road. But I have been to the Boston Garden, the old one. And you want to talk about the most intense atmosphere for Boston Celtics? 10 all the way with Boston. I mean, all right, sorry, Bruins fans, that the Florida Panthers beat you this year. You had the most wins and the most points. But you know what? We've always said one of the toughest championships to win is in the NHL. When they see you as many as 7 times with the intensity that much more heightened, we know that these 1-8 upsets occur a lot. So, but Boston, and I actually went to the Little Fenway Park over in Fort Myers, the Little Monster, and it's a great little ballpark too. Fenway South is what they call it. So, Boston, you got my heart and you got my 10. So, really great broadcast we had tonight. Lots of facts. And, I know we have a bunch of people going over to other shows. So, with that said, just want to let everybody know one more time, the audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube South Florida Tribune. We're striving for 1,000 subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast, want to be a guest, you can go do it that way in the chat room or send ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, call me at 954-304-4941. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. You can also find me on Tribune South over on Twitter, and our website's www.southfloridatribune.com. And kudos to Katie Ebling for everything she does. So please hit subscribe. And, I know that Will Vogel says Boston University have college hockey is good too. You know what? They do. And I'm glad that he slipped that in before the end of the show. Well, a lot of people don't realize that the Bruins are pros, but their college is unbelievable. And, well, don't forget Harvard's pretty good too, okay? The only thing I don't like about Harvard and Cambridge is those people drive bad. I learned from experience. So with that said, Jeremy, let everybody know how they can reach you.
Well, you can find me on the southfloridatribune.com under the Motor City Tribune heading, where you can find me with the lights of Scott over here or even George down there. We're all listed there. Then you'll find my content where I write about the NFL and the Detroit Lions. You can also find me on my channel, Kneecap Biting with Smoke and Jeremy B, with my shows on Wednesday and Friday. You can also find me any night here on the South Florida Tribune channel on YouTube. And you can also find me on Twitter at Smoke and Jeremy or my Facebook page for Lions fans, Motor City Kneecap Biting.
Well done, Jeremy. All right, a couple more comments in the chat room before we go over to Jacob. Well, thank you very much, Will. You're great in the chat room. Need I say more? Denzel Snipes been a big contributor. Great show, guys. Scotty, my boy. Did not tell one lie. I hope not. Otherwise, somebody's going to get a hold of me later down the road. So, but thanks for the kind words to you guys. All right, Jacob, you're next.
All right. I've opened up. I've had a Patreon. I've had a Twitch, which I'm working on getting more straightened out right now. Substack, which I'll be writing my first one pretty darn soon. And then Sunday nights on Basket Bros. Monday nights, Pundit Views. Had a great interview with Jordan Long, and I'm getting another good interview next week. Wednesday nights, Pundits. This is Show the Sports Exchange, and then we're about to go to Confidential. Working on getting Yin and Yang back, and then Fridays when they need me is Gauntlet, and then I'm also working on doing the movie or two, and I got a video game show idea. So everything keeps on moving.
There you go. All right, JB Ellis.
JB_ the program, Sideline Sports Tuesday at 8:30, Confidential tonight at 10. All over the Sideline Sports Network. Here with Scott with the South Florida Tribune. And everywhere else. You never know.
Okay, George.
Yeah, I got a book, Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air. It talks about all the history of Detroit sports broadcasting. It's available. There's a link at the end of my column, which is on the Motor City Tribune page. And you can also find Scott in the book and all kinds of great sportscasting, Ernie Harwell and Ray Lane, George Kell, so many great voices we've had here in Detroit. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and also on Twitter at SanGSports99. And you can read me also in the Detroit Monitor locally. So good to be part of the show as always.
Well done, guys. I know they got Confidential coming up. So meanwhile, this concludes this edition of the Sports Exchange, Relocation, Droughts, and Unemployment. Well, we went through a lot of them. So there you have it. We'll track all these in the coming weeks to see who finally lands, since we went through the trouble of why they lost their jobs and why teams are going to relocate. Well, we only talk about the Coyotes now, but nevertheless, some things aren't going to change for a year. Canada's going to have to wait another year to win a Stanley Cup. So we'll see if it hits 31. Coyotes, who knows where they're going. And it'll be interesting to see how all these coaching scenarios play out. So on behalf of Smoke and Jeremy B., Jacob Christner, JB Ellis, and George Eichhorn, my name is Scott Morganroth of Motor City Manmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. We will see you next Wednesday on this edition of the Sports Exchange. Good night, everybody.